Shabbat Shalom to all of you here in our sanctuary, in our Zoom congregation, on Facebook, on YouTube. Hi, Mom. And all those who have joined us to celebrate Shabbat together. It is so good to see you as we approach this last Shabbat in the month of October, but the first Shabbat in the Hebrew month of Cheshvan. And so we begin with lighting the candles, bringing light and life into our hearts with the candle blessing on page 120. May I ask, Lila, would you light the candles for us?
Shabbat Shalom.
It is traditional for us to begin our Shabbat celebration with a series of psalms taken from the Hebrew Tanakh. And so we begin with Psalm 95 on page 130. L'chun ranana. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai.
L'chun ranana. Adonai, Nariya Netzur, Yisheno, Nekadma, Fanav, Betoda, Bizmirot, Nariya Lo, Nekadma, Fanav, Betoda.
Page 134, Zamru Adonai, sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and melodious song.
Zamru Adonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, bachatzotrot vekol.
one more psalm, Psalm 29, which is ascribed to David and causes us to sing for a song.
מזמור לדוד, אבו לאדוני בן אלים. מזמור לדוד, אבו לאדוני כבוד בעוז. אבו לאדוני כבוד בעוז. אבו לאדוני כבוד שמו. אבו לאדוני כבוד בעוז. אבו לאדוני כבוד שמו. איי איי איי, יא לה 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 לה, איי יא לה לה לה, יא לה לה לה, איי יא לה, יא לה 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 לה, איי יא לה לה לה, יא לה לה לה, אדוני עוז לבוא ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, אדוני עוז לבוא ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. איי איי איי, יא לה 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 לה, איי יא לה לה לה, יא לה לה לה, איי איי איי, יא לה 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 לה, איי יא לה לה לה, יא לה לה לה.
We transport ourselves to the north of Israel to a city called Shabbat, an artist colony in which Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz in the 16th century, who was a Sfad Kabbalist, composed this beautiful poem likening Shabbat to a bride and including into the verses his own name with the verses spelling out his name, the Shin, the Lamed, the Mem, and the Hey in the first 4 verses. And so we join together a melody we haven't used in quite a while, I believe. Yeah. And Lecha Dodi, for the last verse, we will rise and face the door as if to welcome Shabbat as a bride.
לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת נקפלה. לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת נקפלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו, אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם לתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת נקפלה. לקראת שבת חדותי לקראת גאלה פני שבת נקבלה.
While you're all standing, I want to take a moment to greet each other for Shabbat Shalom. If you want to go say hello to somebody. Those of you on Zoom, you can wave to the person in the square next to you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. You may be seated. There you go. One last psalm, Psalm 92, you can find on page 140 before we leave Kabbalat Shabbat and go into our Arvit service.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, מלא עצור ולהתנבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בסביבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי אשר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו.
We separate one part of our service from another with the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולם מעלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמתו קדושיו בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
I invite you to rise for Baruch Hu, our call to prayer.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, המבורך לעולם
invite you to join me in the reading at the top of page 149 in the English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Amen.
As we approach the Shema, I invite you to close your eyes and envision a rainbow, starting with the red, moving to the orange, and to the yellow, then to the green, the blue, and the purple. All the colors of the rainbow, all equally important, all created with the purpose of coming together to give light to the world and the promise of a covenant that God is ours and God is one. We join for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We continue on page 154 with Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
We read together at the bottom of page 156. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led our people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Michamocha, page 158, our freedom song.
Michamocha, Bailim Adonai, נשאר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
We ask God to keep us safe throughout the night, to stay with us, to return us to life in a new day, pure and ready to do mitzvot, to be a partner in God's work in the world. Hashkivenu, page 160.
Ushmor tzedenu uvoenu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam ufroz aleinu sukat shalom echad baruch ata Adonai habores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim amen v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הארץ.
We come to the tefillah, the Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, has so many names. It's the central part of our worship service. On page 164, I invite you to rise if you are able.
Adonai sfatai tiftach ufi yagid
to 180.
We are on page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, v'shalom.
Amen. We add the words of the Misha Berach, a prayer for healing, those in need of healing of their minds, of their bodies, of their spirits. If there is somebody whose name you would like to bring into our sanctuary to be among us, As we go around the room, I would invite you to mention their names. And if you are on Zoom or on our other platforms, I invite you to put your loved ones' names into the chat box so they can be brought to us as well.
And I'm thinking of Liz Baseman.
Miles, is there somebody whose name is listed in our chat boxes?
Jeff Bonham, Megan Firestone, Marla Kazan, Christopher Lewis and Louis Gonzalez, Mark Silverstein, Janice Withrow, and Christine Rice.
Thank you. We add to those names that of Anita Muchnikoff, Barbara Bevins, John Faulkner, Mindy Gladstein, Karen Guth, Jerry Harmon, Elaine Solomon, Shirley Zaidman, Barbara Fish, Rabbi Emmanuel Ben David, Dale Scully, and Ed Schechter. For all those mentioned, and for those we hold in our hearts, we join in the words of the Misha Berach on page 371. Blessed Holy One, be filled with compassion for our loved ones' health to be restored and for their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. It's Parshat Noach. It's still easy to find the Torah portion when we open the Torah. It's so nice. So with the month of Tishrei behind us and the holy days behind us, which I know our clergy and our religious practices committee is grateful for, well, Hanukkah's just around the corner. Yes. Woohoo. I really do believe, though, that the real challenge of beginning a new year starts now. The book of Genesis is a collection of stories about both the imperfections of human beings, and if you want to know a true drama of just messed up people, just read the book of Genesis. But our total imperfection and our potential for being God's partner, on the other hand, in the ongoing creating and redeeming of the world. After all the promises and bargains we made with God and with each other during our past holy days of Tishrei, will you and I really be able to change? Will our month of introspection have any long-lasting impact? I know I already have al-Chetz lining up for next year. The Genesis narrative takes us through generations of human beings, and in particular our biblical ancestors, who are constantly wrestling with their imperfections. I find stories such as Abraham's offering up of Sarah as a concubine to Pharaoh in Genesis 12, immediately after receiving God's promise to make of him a great nation, a great example that oftentimes real-life circumstances challenge our faith. Similarly, the lesson of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, the test given to Abraham to offer up his beloved son, that we all hear every Rosh Hashanah, and we will study again in the coming month, raises for me the danger of blind faith fundamentalism, be it Jewish or any other belief system. When is the biblical narrative a means towards finding better relationships with God and our fellow human beings? And when do the preachers, the teachers, the public figures use text as a pretext for self-centered grasps for power? The central figure of this week's Torah portion is none other than Noah. What kind of a man was he? We are introduced to Noah as a righteous, wholehearted man of his generation. Over the last 2,000 years, rabbis have argued over whether the word bedorotav, in his generation, was meant as a compliment or as a warning to the readers of the story, that compared to other biblical characters, in particular Abraham, that Noah just doesn't measure up. How can Noah be called an Ish Tzadik Tamim Chaya Bedorotav, a wholehearted, righteous man of his generation, and then also be said of him that he just did as God commanded him? Noah's theology was childlike, in that his image of God is that of an all-powerful father figure. I remain troubled by what I see as a fundamentalist theology that teaches that if we humans obey, we will be rewarded, and if we disobey, we will be punished. Human history and the personal experiences of many of our lives teaches us that righteous people do suffer. Must we not question whether there is some good and innocent people who drowned in the flood because there was no room for them on Noah's Ark? In commenting upon the verse, and Noah did just as God commanded him, the Zohar, the book that deals with Jewish mysticism, states, "And Noah held his peace and said naught. He did not intercede on behalf of the people of his generation. Whereas Abraham came forward to intercede with God on behalf of the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, as soon as the Holy One spoke to him of his plans to destroy those cities." The distinction between Abraham and Noah by our rabbis is a useful measure for us, both in judging our own actions and in judging the leadership potential of individuals seeking public office. Noah was a righteous man for his generation, but for the generations of his children and their descendants alone. He was a man of limited horizons. He did what God commanded him to do, and thereby saved his family from disaster. However, as the Zohar reminds us, unlike Abraham, Noah expresses no concern for the plight of other human beings. The fact that our parsha ends with the birth of Abraham reminds me again each year that being a good person who cares for myself and is concerned with the welfare of my immediate family and circle of friends is not sufficient. Abraham was a man of broader vision. His life was filled with episodes in which he constantly demonstrated responsibility toward others that Noah never seemed to consider. Both Noah and Abraham were good family men who demonstrated concern for their offspring. They both fulfilled the obligation to family, implicit in the famous statement of their descendant Hillel the sage, who wrote some 2,000 years later, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me?" However, Noah failed, and Abraham succeeded in responding positively to the challenge of the second part of Hillel's teaching. If I am only for myself, what am I? We live today in a world that is challenged by a rise of anti-Semitism and hatred, narrow-mindedness and self-centeredness. There is a weakening of support for Israel among human liberals and an imbalance for our commitments to our fellow Jews and to our larger world family, symbolized by the children of Noah. Clearly, the world has changed, and yet it hasn't changed in the last few generations. One challenge that remains unchanged is this: how well we in our generation swim through the floodwaters of hate and bigotry and the tidal waves of religious zealotry that are encircling our globe, which will impact the future of generations to come. I used to believe that my generation of Americans and my generation of Jews worldwide would turn the tide of human history. I believed that American efforts for peace in the Middle East would be realized. I also felt a renewed sense of optimism for America, which in hindsight, neither my dreams for America nor Israel have been realized. Though I must acknowledge the dark clouds of hatred and intolerance that cover our contemporary society, I still believe that as Americans and as Jews, we have a responsibility taught to us by Rabbi Tarfon in Pirkei Avot to continue wrestling with the self-centeredness of human nature and to never give up on seeking a partnership with God to repair the world. With all the weaknesses of Noah's persona, I still have sympathy for him. Instead of being critical of him and not being Abraham, I should in fact congratulate Noah for seeking to do his best in an age of evil amorality. Like me, Noah was imperfect as a human being. Like Noah, you and I should not expect ourselves or others, neither our friends nor our enemies, to be perfect. Rather, the message I saw as I sought to use the High Holy Day prayer book this past month as both a mirror on my soul and a window to the world is that the challenge for each of us every day is to be the best me that I can be at that moment. May each of us see in the world of the imperfect Noah a challenge that, as the prophet Micah spoke, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Our service continues with Aleinu, page 586, or 588. 88, okay. 88. Please rise if you are able.
As you are able.
turn our thoughts to those whose days on earth have ended, those in our hearts, and those of others. If you are in the Shiva period, the first 7 days of mourning, I invite you to stand and mention your loved ones' names. If you are in the first 30 days of mourning, I invite you to rise and share your loved ones' names. Irvin Silverstein. If you are in the first year of mourning, I invite you to rise.
And I'm remembering Jonathan Kaysen.
And if you are observing a yort site this week, I invite you to rise and share your loved ones' names. Are there those to be mentioned from Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube?
Jonathan Kazin and Randy Sostock, first year of mourning.
Thank you.
Joan Friedman and Harvey Sokol.
Thank you. In addition, we also remember Charlene Roth, Stephen Mark Richter, Harvey Sokol, Florence Cohen, Maurice Schenk, Ruth Brent, Lottie Hirsch, Charles Rosenberg, Betty Rubin, Miriam Phillips, Morton Hecht, Malka Prum, Linda Seufer, Andrei Posalski, Karen Spalter, Louis Boyarski, George Marhefka, Diane Lampel, and Ida Cutler. For those mentioned and those we hold in our hearts, if it is your custom to rise for the Kaddish, I invite you to do so and join our mourners on page 598.
Yitgadal b'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divarach hirute, ve'amlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Aseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
May the one who sends peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us. And we say, Amen. You may be seated. A few upcoming events for you to know about. First of all, tomorrow morning, Torah study at 9 o'clock, either live or on Zoom. I want to say on Memorex. It's not on Memorex.
What's Memorex?
Oh, child.
Okay.
That's an
You'll tell me later.
Yeah,
We're going to do Kiddush right here.
right here. So Torah study services at 10 o'clock, and then
Mark. Mark, it's right here.
There you go.
For your
There you go.
convenience.
Yes. And then right after services, we will enjoy lunch, a catered lunch, and our lunch and learn. We'll be back in the sanctuary for the learning part, so if you aren't able to be here in person, we invite you to join us on the subject of the upcoming Israel elections. We will not be talking about the American elections. We are inundated
Though those
with
are
it.
also
Oh my-
extremely important,
they
and
are
you should
extremely-
definitely
yes.
vote.
Please do. So that is tomorrow during the day, and then in the evening, our
What?
children will be enjoying,
Yep.
trunk and treat.
Trunk or treat.
Trunk
Trunk or treat.
Where, and if you would like to offer your trunk for a stop by, please
Decorate
feel
it, make
free.
your trunk all spooky.
Don't scare the children too badly.
Spooky,
it
not
should be fun.
horrifying. There's a
Havdalah
difference.
and trunk or treat, and then okay,
That's good
Are you-
before candy.
yeah, a little bit of protein before the sugar and fat. So we look forward to enjoying that with our children. And then next week is, I think, a regular Shabbat without anything special. The following Shabbat, November 11th, we will be honoring our veterans. If you are a veteran or you know a veteran who would like to be honored and participate in our services with an English reading, please let me know. We would like to include them all, and if I don't hear from you, I will come and call you personally anyway. So, first come, first serve on the readings. And I think that's it for now. We've got Kiddush on page 123, starting with Vayachulu. Please join us, and if it is your tradition to rise for
Please
Kiddush, you may
rise.
do that too.
ויערב ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי, מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל עמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים.
As we get ready to go out into the world, may we always take a time to look at rainbows, to appreciate the colors of the world and all that God has given us to celebrate. We close our service with Ki Eshmera Shabbat. When I keep Shabbat, God keeps me. Page 634.
כי אשמרה שבת, אין ישמרני. כי אשמרה שבת, אין ישמרני. אותי לעולמיה, בינו וביני. אותי לעולמיה, בינו וביני. איי 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 איי
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for joining us. Those of you on Zoom, hello, Barbara. We missed you this afternoon. Good to see you. Thank you. Elaine, where are those grandchildren? They're still not there.
Shabbat Shalom. Also, friends on YouTube and Facebook, if you're still
Please join us for our
connected
oneg on,
with us.
I think, in the social hall.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Mew. And that Miles, if we can unmute the Zoom